Hey guys, coming at you today with a delicious recipe for a soft biscuit-like keto strawberry rhubarb scone. But not just that, I'm going to show you how versatile this recipe is and how easy it is to change it up and make a strawberry chocolate chip scone also. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, thanks for joining me. My name's Alicia, I'm a pastry chef with a sweet tooth. And now I own a keto gluten-free bakery, which is in my home that you see right here. And I hope to have a storefront one day that you guys can all come visit. If you help me out by sharing my recipes with all your friends and family, sharing my website, ordering my delicious baked goods and all that, it all will help my channel grow and my bakery and bring you new recipes every Saturday. Today, some delicious scones. I haven't put out a scone recipe in a couple of years, but this recipe is super simple to customize to whatever flavor you want to make. Some of you maybe have tried a couple of different flavors of my scones in my surprise bakery box, and these will probably be in there as well. But I wanted to show you today a strawberry rhubarb one because it is rhubarb season. I got tons of rhubarb from my best friend, so I want to use that up. But when I did the test, I was thinking about it, and I had already added the rhubarb and everything to the whole thing. Should have left some without the rhubarb and put chocolate chips in instead. So today we're going to do that because I always make a double batch now because I got really frustrated with having tons of liquid left over because our keto ingredients change so often that a lot of times you can't add all the liquid into the recipe because it's too wet. Like, stuff is less absorbent than it used to be. This is the type of recipe that you only add as much as your dry ingredients will allow. So now I make a double batch. So I cut down the eggs from 4 to 3. So if you make a single batch, you need like 1.5 eggs. So now I just always make a double batch. If it's super warm in your kitchen, this recipe might be a little bit difficult to do because you gotta grate butter and get it frozen. So it becomes a pain when the area gets heated up. So just keep that in mind when you're doing this recipe, along with a lot of my other recipes. But you want to grate some butter. I have it in the fridge. I have a bowl in the freezer chilling, and I'm going to use the salad shooter some lovely subscriber sent me because it does help with getting it done fast, and that way the butter doesn't have time to warm up, especially with the heat of your hand with grating it on a grater. You can also just chop it, freeze it, and then cut it in with a pastry blender, fork, your hands, whatever. It's just more work on your hands. First, we're gonna start out with 2 sticks of butter. So this is a double batch. It's gonna make 24 scones. 2 sticks of, I use salted butter. I'm only gonna take out 1 stick at a time. Keep them as cold as possible. Plug in my salad shooter here. And I found it works better without the little shooter attachment for butter because it all just gets stuck in there. So I just have it open. So on. Works better if you're holding it up. But then you don't get a shot of the butter coming out. The other stick, and hopefully the rest will come out. Clean off this and kind of break up the pieces. You want to do this first because you want your butter nice and frozen, and you got to get your dry and your wet ingredients ready to go. So do this first. Even a day ahead I've done it. Get all that butter out of there. So that was quick work, and I didn't use any muscles. Which a lot of times I just do it by hand because, you know, I could use the workout. Unplug it. Quite a bit of butter stuck in there. I didn't measure this out specifically. It's not really gonna matter if there's a couple grams of butter you're off. Still gonna be soft, pillowy, moist. Okay, popping this into the freezer. We'll get on to our dry and our wet ingredients after I clean this up. Okay, onto the wet ingredients, which I've had them sitting out most of the morning. You do want these kind of room temperature just because they'll blend easier together, but I didn't have my milk out. So just my cream cheese, you want that softened. This is 4 ounces. I've cut all this down because it was getting to the point where I was just wasting so many ingredients because my flours started not being as absorbent. This is pretty soft. You can even throw it in the microwave, 50% power for like 30 seconds, and it'll blend in even better with the keto buttermilk and the eggs. We need 6 ounces altogether of keto buttermilk. So I just use vinegar and the So Delicious coconut milk. If you're making a different flavored scone, like my cranberry orange, I use the orange juice as my acid to make my buttermilk. So I just measure it out, 2 teaspoons, which is 0.4 on my scale, and then up to the 6 ounce mark, which would be 3/4 of a cup. And that's your keto buttermilk. I normally weigh out my eggs. These are all the bigger eggs left that I had from my 60 count egg. 1 large egg should be 50 grams, so that was 5 over, and that was 4 over. We're not going to blend that together yet. We'll get all our dry ingredients. The nice thing about this recipe is you can kind of go at a slow pace because you can freeze your butter whenever. You can get this ingredients ready. You can get your dry ready. It also takes a rest in the refrigerator a couple of times. And my original recipe with my biscuits, this is pretty much the exact same, except for since then I've learned that I can replace coconut flour with bamboo fiber or oat fiber. So I actually evened out the amount of oat and coconut that I put in there to make it a little bit lower carb, and it's still super soft and fluffy. So this is going to be 2 cups of an unflavored whey protein isolate. You can use flavored ones in this, I'm sure. I would probably cut the xanthan gum down a little bit, and you can probably cut the sweetener down. 60 grams, or it should be a 1/2 cup of coconut flour. I did do an experiment with replacing oat fiber with bamboo fiber, and it did work. I just didn't prefer the flavor of the bamboo fiber in there. I don't usually sift the oat fiber because it's so light and airy, but the coconut flour definitely usually has clumps in it. Then I've cut the xanthan gum down by half. Someone actually commented recently about how much xanthan gum was in my biscuit recipe, and the original had 2 teaspoons, and it was a half of this batch. So that's a lot of xanthan gum if you have a really strong one like I do now. For some reason, the one I was getting back in the day wasn't very strong. So now, since this is a double batch, I'm still using 2 teaspoons. And all that's left is the rising agents, which I use a combination of baking powder and baking soda in this. Usually I get each one is about 10 to 12 grams. It all depends on how you scoop it and how clumpy your baking powder is. Now I've been doing just shy of 2 teaspoons, like I don't fill it all the way, of baking soda. So 8 grams of baking soda. And I lied, that wasn't the last ingredient. And I've forgotten this before in my recipe because I'm so not used to adding sweetener to this type of recipe. But I use a powdered sweetener because we're not mixing up like a granular with anything. So there's no way to get it to not be like grainy in there. So I use a cup and like 3 tablespoons for this whole batch. The sweetness level on this though is up to you. To me, they don't taste super sweet at all. And I think my husband even has tried some and they weren't that sweet to him. But scones aren't supposed to be like overtly sweet. But this recipe works without any sweetener in it because it was my biscuit recipe originally. So 1 cup, that was 130 already. So I have found that different brands of keto powdered sweeteners measure differently too. It's a big pain in the butt when we don't have like big manufacturers that do our ingredients. They're not all the same across the board. And this is a Monkford erythritol blend, just so you know, but you can use any powdered erythritol. You can even blend up a granular if you don't want to buy powdered. The only time I don't suggest doing that is for frostings, because there's no way you can get it powdered enough to not have a grainy frosting. Mix it all together. I'm going to pour this into a bigger bowl. We're going to use this bowl anyways because we are going to split the batch into 2. Oh, I forgot the last thing. I keep forgetting, saying last thing. The way I put more strawberry flavor into this is I used the little bit of freeze-dried strawberries I had left. I just blended it all in the blender, and I made 1 batch of this the other day, and I had a 1/2 ounce of powdered left. So I decided I was going to make this recipe because it turned out delicious. I did put a silica pack in there, but it really didn't do anything. There's too much moisture in the air. It's been raining for like 3 days. It's supposed to rain the next 3 days. I'm gonna put most of it in here because we're making all strawberry flavored. And then I used a little bit with granular sweetener to decorate the top of the scones, which turned out real nice. Mix this all up real good. My ingredients are pretty warm. I'm gonna throw this in the refrigerator, chill while we get the rest of our stuff. So I already had my 8 ounces of rhubarb cut up. I'm only gonna do 4 ounces now. We can put that in this bowl. I just diced it into little pieces. And then we're gonna do 4 ounces of frozen strawberries throughout the whole batch. Which I just used frozen strawberries, but it'd probably be easier to use fresh strawberries. Frozen strawberries make it a little bit more difficult because once they defrost in there, they get pretty wet. So I'm just gonna cut these up. This is the amount of strawberry and rhubarb I could add to the scone recipe and keep it 2 net carbs each. I also added some strawberry extract. So if you want to do just a whole batch of strawberry rhubarb scones, you'd still do the 4 ounces of strawberries and you do 8 ounces of the rhubarb. I'm going to keep these in the freezer until we're ready to go so that they'll defrost the least amount possible. Okay, the last thing here we're going to do, not the last thing, I always make things so complicated, but I just want to show you all the different ways you can use my recipes. So if you do 24 in there, use about 1 gram per scone to decorate. It's like a strawberry sugar for the top. Obviously it's optional, like everything I do that's extra. Now we're gonna cut our butter into our dry ingredients. I always just use a fork to start, get it all in there so I don't touch it with my hands. Mix it all up, make sure all the butter's kind of broken up in there. And then I go in with my hands and break up any big chunks. Kind of rub them between your fingers. So all the chunks are gone. Throw it back in the fridge. If you have room in your freezer, throw it in your freezer. I don't. Going in the fridge while I get the wet ingredients whipped up. I just like using my hand mixer with the whisk attachment on it in like some tall cylindrical container. I like to start with my cream cheese to try and get it all nice and whipped up in there. You cut it up. I actually did this the opposite way. Normally I whip up the egg. As I whip, I put in the cream cheese. And that's it. You can also use like an immersion blender would be good for that. I wasn't super precise on the cream cheese. You're gonna have some left over still. You are gonna use it to brush your scones to get them like nice and golden brown on top, but you still probably will have a little bit left. Again, it all depends on what brand of ingredients you use though too. Okay, we're gonna get out our dry ingredients and butter. Add in our wet and our strawberries, weigh it out, and add half to the rhubarb and get it in the refrigerator to chill and hydrate for a while. So I'm gonna add in a bunch of this. I have about a cup left. I'm gonna add in a tablespoon of strawberry extract. Mix it all in. Add in our frozen strawberries. Oh, I forgot to mention the chocolate chips. I actually had measured out chocolate chips already, so that's why I forgot to mention it. I have them back there. I use semi-sweet chocolate chips. Add in some more because we got lots of dry left. Okay, that looks good. Only a little bit of dry under there. Instead of dirtying another dish, I'm just gonna put some plastic wrap on here. 563. Okay. Add to your heart's content, I say. Into the fridge to chill and hydrate all the way, and then we'll get our workspace ready to get all these cut and onto pans. There we go, into the fridge. You don't want to let all this stuff out too long because of the butter. You want to keep it as cold as possible. Let's see how much is left. About an ounce. So we used 3 ounces of chocolate chips. So that's what I'll put in the macros below. Time to get cleaned up. Okay, so it's been chilling for a while. I'm all cleaned up. I have 2 half sheet trays with parchment paper in the fridge chilling because it'll take a minute for us to get this ready. I always like to wear gloves for this just because it's kind of sticky and messy. But you can also do the scoop method, which is what I did in my cranberry orange scone recipe. I'll link that up there for you. But that makes really big scones. I like doing the triangle scones better. I feel like they look nicer even though they're technically smaller in size. I have a pile of my whey protein isolate here. I'm gonna sprinkle the board with it and do the rhubarb first. And depending on how much liquid you added will depend on how much whey protein you end up needing for this. You want to try to work pretty quick here. But I did this part for my biscuits because when I was doing the biscuits, I was trying to make really nice, round, pretty biscuits. And if I didn't knead and fold it and get it a real cohesive dough, I'd have blowouts all over the place and they just wouldn't look nice. So technically you can skip this step if you really don't care of the shape and stuff of your scones, which if you didn't add too much liquid, it really shouldn't take too much to get it like nice and even and cohesive. Which it already looks pretty good. Like it doesn't look too like crazy sticky and ununiform. Like it's staying together pretty well. I usually just do a couple of folds to get it nice and not super sticky. And I make it into a rectangle that's pretty thick still. The thicker you make them, the less they'll spread and they'll be like a thicker mounded scone. I like them a little bit bigger, like height-wise, than flat. And they should be about 56 grams each. So I cut it in half as well as I can, then into thirds. And then these are gonna be a little bit big, I think. So I always use my scale still. Cut a little bit off. This I think is gonna need to be over here a little bit. 55, between 55 and 56 should work. That one's a little small, so keep that to the side. That one I could feel was real heavy. If you have more add-ins in, you know, a certain scone, it's gonna be heavier than other scones, so. Yep. Let's see what these guys are. I feel like they're a little bit bigger than the other ones, like height-wise. Squish them down a little bit more. Try to keep them all together though. That one's really tiny. He's a small little guy. This is the last one that's a little small. This guy was a little big. And I do this because I'm selling this stuff, so I want it all pretty even. I don't want to shortchange people that are getting my baked goods. It's good to go. Get out one of our sheet trays. And I try to do this the same every time and I always like mess it up. So you want to do it like 3 in a line like this. A little bit closer together. Okay, throwing those in the refrigerator. And once we have them all done, we'll egg wash all of them. It's gonna give this a little scrape and change out my gloves and we'll get out the other batch. At this point, you can preheat your oven to 375. The longer you refrigerate them, the less they're gonna spread though. Now, I should have done the calculations before I added the chocolate chips. Adding 3 ounces to a single batch of scones makes it 6 for the double batch, and it would make it 4 grams net carbs for 1 scone. Spread out some flour. I'm gonna measure this just so that I know how many each one's gonna be, because I haven't done this batch yet. 648. Okay, so this one's gonna be about 53 grams each. So whatever add-ins you add in is what's gonna determine your carb count and how much each scone is gonna weigh. Again, it doesn't really matter if you're just doing this at home, how big they are. I mean, if you make one way too big compared to the other ones, it's not gonna bake as fast and you're gonna end up overcooking your other ones. So that's another reason that I weigh things out, because they bake evenly that way. Maybe 54 grams. I don't know if I said 53 or 54, but doing the exact same thing I did with the last one. So just gonna speed through this. We'll get on to bacon. Okay, those are all set. Get them on the sheet tray. Okay, into the fridge, and we're gonna get the other tray out and brush those guys. First, I'm gonna clean up. Okay, oven's been preheated for a while, so I'm gonna pull out that first tray. So all in all, I probably had like a half cup of liquid left. And if you wanna be accurate with this, it's kind of hard to know how much a gram is. So I just keep it on the scale and kind of sprinkle and kind of estimate it. Nice coating of egg wash. Not even registering. It did it yesterday. I think it's about time for a new scale. I don't know if I can even calibrate it or not. Now it's finally registering. Should be down to 12 grams, but I'm not gonna trust that. Okay, throw these back in the fridge for a minute and get the other ones done. If for some reason your keto ingredients are less absorbent than mine and you don't have a lot left, just use a little bit of egg and milk. These are gonna have a lot less on it, which is fine because there's actually sugar in the chocolate chips, unlike the rhubarb one. So I did this initially for the strawberry rhubarb because rhubarb is not as sweet. So the chocolate chip ones really don't need the extra sugar on there. Popping these in the fridge, and I'm popping my first one in the oven. 8 turn 8 was what I found for my oven. I found my oven seems to cook much faster than like my upstairs oven, so you might need some more time. You want them to bounce back in the middle, like not be mushy, and they'll be done. In they go. And my hair always looks good before I start making videos, and then it gets crazy with the heat from the oven. You'll see those rotated, and I'll be back here when they are out of the oven. Okay, it's been 15 minutes. I'm gonna check them real quick, and they are done. They are springing back. They're not mushy in the middle at all. These are gonna go on the cooling rack to cool down all the way before we give them a taste. I'm gonna throw in the other tray of scones. I'm excited for these ones because I love everything that's chocolate. So those are probably done at 17 minutes. Definitely err on the side of caution and do less because you don't want to over bake them because they will get dry if you bake them too long. Okay, I only set at 8 and 6 and they seem done, so I'm gonna pull them out now. They're no longer mushy inside, good to go. So I'm gonna let these cool for a bit and then we're gonna give these guys a taste. Here is our delicious plate of scones. These are the strawberry rhubarb. They look delicious. Now the scones are pretty soft, so I wouldn't move them too much until they're completely cooled. And they're really moist, especially with strawberries, because strawberries have a lot of liquid in them. Like a soft biscuity scone. Now if you want a traditional scone like the UK kind of version of scone, it's really hard for me to do stuff like that because I've literally never had one. The first pastry job I ever had scones like this, and other than that I haven't had another scone pretty much. And I've never traveled abroad, so I've never been to the UK or anything like that, so this is my ideal type of scone. Give this a taste. Soft, fluffy, a little bit sweet. Get the tart when you get a piece of rhubarb in there. It's crunchy on top from that little bit of sugar we put on top, or sweetener. So good. And it is a little sweet for me, so it'll probably be good for you, or you might even be able to dial it back a little bit. So good. Really moist. I know people hate that word, but I like that word because I think yummy food when I think of that word. Time to try a chocolate one. These are still warm. Everything is best keto baked good wise, especially mine, better warm or room temperature. Chocolatey. Super soft and fluffy. I love anything chocolate. Chocolate and strawberry. Delicious. So I hope you guys enjoy this recipe and find it super helpful with all the tips and tricks, and literally you can make this base recipe into whatever flavor scone you want. I've done blueberry vanilla, raspberry almond, I've done blackberry, the cranberry orange, tons of different options. You can mix it up and create your own keto creation. Let me know what you guys come up with down below. I love to hear all about your keto creations. You can always share on my Facebook page or my Instagram, Keto Upgrade Chef, Keto Upgrade on Facebook. You can always just find a post a picture. I love seeing all your creations. Don't forget to check out my Amazon shop page. The link is down in the description box below, along with the blog link to the full recipe. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. As always, I'll be back with more keto, low carb, healthy meals, desserts, and snack recipes. Bye guys. Happy keto baking.